So from your childhoods, what do you miss most about Walt Disney World?
Do you? I think for me, the thing that I probably miss the most is we would come down for like 10 days and stay at Fort Wilderness, which was really pretty amazing. And we would do all of the kind of the interstitial things that I think a lot of people now, everyone's, park hopping and doing all that stuff. We would take a day and go canoeing. We would do the movie Under the Stars at Fort Wilderness and things like that. And then I would really like to ride Horizons one more time. That would be great. That would be really good.
I'd have to say probably World of Motion for me.
Oh, yeah.
That was one that I loved. I could do that one anytime. So that's one thing I miss.
So your presentation all about Easter eggs around Walt Disney World, and you also highlight some Big Thunder and Storybook Circus. Do you have a personal favorite Easter egg in all of Walt Disney World?
Gosh.
One that I love is a net full of Jell-O.
Yeah.
That one's always a great one for multiple reasons. Love the Muppets, Disney Legend, all that fun stuff. So that's one I like.
I can't think of a favorite one. I mean, I think the ones we showed today are. I mean, the reason why we showed those is that those are our favorites. When we were doing the Pedro gas can, I think we got a big kick out of that. I think that was a fun one for us to do, just because he's a lesser known character and it was a nice fit, and we got to do that really pretty graphic for it. So I think that was a highlight.
So retro is pretty big these days, and with events like this, particularly with merchandise, if you could own one piece of Walt Disney World past, what would it be?
Ooh. The entire Horizons ride.
I don't know. I'm partial to a lot of things Disney MGM Studios, maybe anything that's related to that, Disney Hollywood Studios, original opening stuff. That's some of my favorite stuff too.
I think for us, when we brought the Orange Bird back a couple of years ago, that was a pretty big deal. It was something that, it was like if you could have the Orange Bird, that would be amazing. But the fact that we got it back out in the park and now everybody can see it and enjoy it was really, that was pretty amazing. That was a really fun thing to do.
For me in the panel personally, I always love being surprised, and I had no idea about the stamps in Town Square Theater referencing attractions. Like you walk by almost every day meeting Mickey, and I never once looked at the stamps. As you find that happens a lot of people continually miss these things?
No, actually, I think the opposite is true. I think there's a lot of really good Walt Disney World bloggers out there that go in and find they scour. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Mm-hmm. And the stamps was one that have just kind of flown under the radar. And we've actually had people ask us about Mickey, like, did I find everything? Did I get it all? Can you check this thing? I'm like, well, you still missed a couple, Or like, who's this S.A. Tilly guy on here? I'm like, well, just keep looking, And the stamps have always sat there. And it was funny that it just worked out to be able to use it today, because this is all about extinct attractions. So it was the perfect fit. And I think the reason why no one ever saw the stamps is because they look like real stamps. I mean, you have to get on top of them to be able to see it. And one of the things that we always do at WDI is we talk about tell one story at a time, right? So you want to make sure that everything tells that story. And an Easter egg sometimes can pop a little hole in that. But if it's done right, for 99% of people, they'll never see it. So they stay in the story, they stay in the narrative. But then for those people who just go a little bit deeper, that's where the surprise is. I think that's the stamps, the success of the stamps, if you will. That's where it lays.
That was one of our guiding principles when we were doing all the hidden items at Big Thunder, were things that really wouldn't pull you out of the story. And so by doing Thunder Mesa and the painting of the mountains, it's people that Disney fans that know the history would get it, but otherwise it's just a nice looking mountain. That's why he's doing it true hidden Mickey.
So theme parks attractions have come a long way since 1964 World's Fair, but in many ways they've stayed the same. Given another 50 years, where do you see us? Virtual headsets?
It's funny because some of our most successful attractions rely on technologies that are like 100 years old. And without, spoiling the show, I think you're going to see a lot of the same things you see today. I mean, when we do it right, you shouldn't notice the technology. You shouldn't be aware of it at all. It's interesting. Just if I can just take a side trip, when you meet people who are Imagineers, as children, they fall in two categories. They're the people who went on rides that tried to figure out how they work, or they went on rides and were totally taken away by it. And so I was the latter, totally taken away. And I think if we make attractions 50 years from now, 100 years from now, hopefully you won't see the technology. You'll just be taken away and having fun.
I think humans, there's basic things that humans enjoy and like, and so that hasn't changed in 50 years, 60 years of our parks almost now. So I think some of the same things will stay true.
Follow up with that too. I see a lot more use of projectors, especially with the digital mapping. You think we'll see a lot more of that?
I think it's just another tool in the toolbox, right? And I think even that's going to evolve, you know. So I think, like any artist, you have paintbrushes and pencils and all of these things, and digital projection is just another thing that we can use or not use if we don't want to.
So growing up for me personally, Imagineers were like my own, they're celebrities to me. I see them on specials all the time.
Me too.
And watching Tony Baxter talk about Splash Mountain, I was like, I always love to meet them. And nowadays, you know, social media is so big, and you two specifically are on Twitter all the time. How important is social media to y'all interacting with the fans?
For me, I was a fan since a little kid till now too, so I still get excited being here with Tony or other people. So to me, it's just kind of another way to enjoy the parks and enjoy what Disney parks do and bring.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really view it as anything specific. I just view it as another way to talk to people about things that you love. And that's really it. I never really think about what the format is. It's just a way to have a conversation and hang out with people that like stuff. You know, that's how I view it. It's just fun.
So digging into the past of the attractions and the theme parks, what is your biggest inspiration?
Oh my God, that's a good one.
That is good.
So, you know, I always like to be surprised, and so two of the attractions we talked about today when I was a kid really did that for me. The first one was If You Had Wings, because there were so many great gags in that attraction, and I can still to this day remember going into that room and seeing that big fisherman with that fishing pole and watching that fish grow really huge, and you're like, ah, and then it would shrink and you go, you know. And as a kid, it was just so silly, you know, and it was so funny. Conversely, with Horizons, that was astonishing because of that outer space scene I mentioned, where it was so mundane that it was spectacular. And what both of those things did is they surprised you and delighted you. And I think those are two examples that I always think about in the back of my head, which is if you're going to do something in an attraction or a show, and you're going to make it important, how do you make it important? How do you make it worthwhile? How do you make the surprise and delight? Where is the guy with the fishing pole, right? So that, for me, is something I always think about.
Yeah, I think just trying to really fully get immersed into it and step into this world that are parks, whether it's the ride or when you first drive onto property here at Walt Disney World and you know you're here, doing that as a kid and having that feeling. Think about that now as we're designing new items.
Oh, and you talked about it a little earlier. It's not often where you have an extinct property come back like the Orange Bird did. Right. Like for you, what was that, working on that personally, what was that like to bring back that property?
It was really, it was exciting. I mean, I think for a lot of Disney fans, especially those who drove to Florida, like I didn't fly an airplane until I was 20, right? So you would hit that Florida border and then you would go into the welcome station and there would be the Orange Bird, right? So in a lot of ways, to me, it was like as soon as I saw the Orange Bird, the vacation was starting. You know, that's when we knew we were there. So you actually saw the Orange Bird more on your way to Walt Disney World than you did Mickey Mouse sometimes. And for us, you know, we had this opportunity to do it, and we didn't know going into it how we were going to be able to pull it off. You know, at first we thought, well, we'll just put Orange Bird on the sign, and then when we found out we could actually get the real figure, it was like, oh my God. And then it just kind of snowballed because people started to get excited, and it started to build like a critical mass, and then we were able to do what we did, and it was really rewarding. It was fun. I still get a kick out of going out there and seeing him. I mean, it's great. He's up there just smiling away on his crate, so it's fun.